So that's it for our check delivery, and we have triggered another event, this one. So let's go ahead and copy this, and we're going to scroll back to the bottom, and we're going to register a net event. If you have again, if you have a registered net event, it can appear anywhere in the script, and it'll be referenced. If you have a function, it has to appear at the top of the script. All right, so this one is called deliver vehicle. Let's find that one. Vehicle secure, deliver vehicle. Okay, so again, we're going to need our player ped, our player chords, our distance from the delivery. Delivery chords. Hold on a second. Oh, I'm supposed to send over my delivery chords here. This is good. We haven't done this before, I don't believe, so we're going to do this now. I need to go back to my function. Where is my function? There it is, check delivery. Okay, so I had pasted this in, so I didn't think to tell you guys this. So you'll notice previously whenever we were triggering the events, for example here, we did not have a comma. Now we have a comma and delivery chords. We're sending over the delivery chords. So we calculated the delivery chords here, or we didn't calculate it, we grabbed it from the blip. I'm going to trigger this function, but I want it to know what chords we're going to. So if I put a comma delivery chords here, that means that whenever this function is triggered, it's going to carry some data with it. It's going to carry our delivery chords. So whenever I register the event inside a function, I want to say delivery chords because I'm bringing delivery chords from that execution up top where I triggered this event, and I'm passing it through to the function. So I put it inside of here, and it's going to take those values and it's going to define a variable for me called delivery chords. I could call this whatever I wanted to. I could just call it something, and then to reference it, I would say something here, and then it would reference it. You guys probably saw how they changed colors. That means that this variable is referenced, but I want to keep it simple, so it's going to be delivery chords. All right, so whenever I'm calculating my distance from delivery, I am using my player chords that I got right here, and I'm using the delivery chords I pulled down whenever I triggered this function. That is extremely important because a lot of, like whenever I've been helping on the QB Core Discord, a lot of people are like, why am I getting this error message? And the error message will say something like, you know, in this case, it would say delivery chords is nil. If I had this and I ran this function, I can already see something's wrong because VS Code told me that I don't have, this is an unreferenced variable. But if I ran this anyway, it's going to give me an error message and say delivery chords is nil at line 174 of KSUI lesson 1 client Lua. You'd have a nil value. And that's 90 to 95% of the, of the issues that people have is they don't understand how variables are passed between functions. So now you know you'll never have that problem. Okay, so now I'm going to do a loop. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste it because I'm trying to go fast tonight and we're an hour and 20 minutes in, so my apologies. But we're almost there. I mean, this is almost done. Okay, so for this loop, I'm checking while not delivered. I said delivered was false here. So while that is false, it's going to run this loop. It's going to pull the player chords. I have to update this every iteration of the loop, or I'm only going to be getting the first value that they had, and nothing in here is going to work because I'm never going to get close enough. I'm going to recalculate my distance from delivery. My delivery chords never change because I passed them over. So I don't have to redefine it every time. I defined it whenever I passed over the variables. All right, so if that distance from delivery is less than config.marker draw distance, remember we had this config marker draw distance here that we put on our config, and I told you that was for later. This is where we're going to reference it at. So we're going to check the draw distance. So if the distance from delivery is less than 20, then we're going to do something, and we're going to draw a marker. And this is not, this is a FiveM native. So let's go over here. Draw marker. So here's our draw marker. And this is all the variables we need. Type, position XYZ, direction XYZ, rotation XYZ, scale, blah, 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 all that stuff. Okay. And so all of this stuff that's in here, all of that stuff, you can see there's a lot of variables there, is everything that is here. I'm not going to step through all these. Well, I'll step through them real quick here, but I'm not going to step through them on the script because it's too many. It'll take too long. But type is the marker type to draw. Position XYZ, that's our coordinates, XYZ coordinates of the draw marker. Direction XYZ, the draw markers are, I'll show you those in a second. They can have, some of them have a direction and a rotation. So if it's like an arrow, you can rotate it so that it's a horizontal arrow, or up so it's a vertical arrow, et cetera, et cetera. If you go look at FiveM docs and you go to game reference and you look for markers, these are all the different markers you can use. And you can see, like, if you have this and you rotate it 90 degrees, you can make it vertical bars, you can make it horizontal bars, you can make it 90 degrees from this. So that's what the rotation and everything is to realign this marker. In our case, I think we're using 20. We can check. Type 2. So in our case, we are using type 2, which is this whatever you call that. It's like an up arrow. That's the marker we're using. Marker thick type chevron up. Okay. I guess I should go back to the deal. So that's what the direction and rotation are. That's to align it. The scale XYZ, that just changes the size of the marker. Red, green, and blue, you enter the RGB value to set the color you want for the marker. Alpha is the alpha component. It's a scale from 0 to 255. I don't really know what that means. I can't remember what number we used. Let's see. It's going to take a second to find it. So we had XYZ, 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 marker size, which we defined here. Marker color.r, so we got RGB of 100, 100, 155. And then for alpha, we just we used 100. Okay, and for bob up and down, we said false because we just want it to sit in one place. We don't want it to bounce. I think face camera, I said true because it rotates as you move around. Yes, I said true. That just means you'll see that whenever we test the script, it rotates with where you're looking at, rotates with the camera. Texture dictionary is a string. That's if you want a special marker, and I think we did not define it. Yeah, we used 2, which is the chevron. False, nil, nil, false. False, nil, nil, false. So for rotate, we said false. For texture dictionary and texture name, we said nil and nil. That's just if you want to put a fancy design on the marker, so it's not just a default. And then draw on ints. We don't want it to draw on any entities, like draw through a wall or draw through a prop, so it would just not, it wouldn't intersect any entities. It would disappear if it was touching an entity on that part of the marker. Okay, so that's all the variables that we need for draw marker. One note, you can do it this way, or you can do it this way if it's easier for you to read. This is the same. And it just, the reason I didn't do it this way is because you can see how long it is, how much space it takes, and just keep going down. But those are equivalent. You can do it either way if it's easier for you to read. That way it matches exactly with the FiveM native, because the FiveM native is laid out, vertically. So that, that's, you can do it that way, or you can delete the return and just have it as one string of commas, which is what we did here. All right, so if our distance from the delivery is greater than 4, then we want to do a draw text 3DS that tells them the delivery coords. It'll tell them where to draw it, and it's gonna pop up a message on the screen that says "Come closer." So that's how we're gonna draw text. Now, draw text 3DS is not a FiveM native. If you come over here and you search for draw text 3D 3DS, you'll see that that is not a function, and it's not a server function. It's not a function in FiveM. So what does that mean? That means that right now, this will do absolutely nothing because it doesn't have a defined function. So we have to write a function for that, which conveniently I've already done. And technically I didn't write this, I copied it. Because this is a standard function that people use all the time to pop up. Anytime you see words on the screen, like press E to complete or something like that, it's a draw text. It's a standard function that people use in all kinds of scripts, and somebody else has already conveniently wrote it. And all of these are FiveM natives. So set text scale, set text font, all of this stuff is FiveM natives. So you don't have to write a function for each one of these. So basically what the genius that wrote this originally did, and like at the very beginning of FiveM, was use the FiveM natives to create a way to put text on the screen. And so I could step through all this, but there's no point, because you could edit this stuff and you could change how it appears on the screen with your rectangle and your all that stuff. But anyway, you'll be able to find this in most any script. You'll be able to find it in the one that I'm going to upload. And you can use this function anytime you want to put text on the screen. And in this case, we're going to do come closer. You can still hear me, Lemon? Everybody still with me? Everybody quit? Where we at? Hello?
Everything's good. We're still here.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot Lemon's putting her kid down.
Oh, okay. All right. Good night. All right. And then we are in a, so if they're further than, let's get this back here. Okay. So if they're if they're further than 4 meters away, then it's going to tell them to come closer. Once they get within 4 meters, if they're less than or equal to 4 meters, then the draw text is going to update, and it's going to tell them to press E to deliver the vehicle. So the text is going to change from come closer to press E to deliver. At the same time, there's always going to be a marker there also, and I did that. It's not necessary you can have one or the other. I just did it for the example, so you could see how to use both methods to put visual cues inside the server. All right, so since we told them to press E to deliver, we want to check and see if they did that or not. So we're going to use a FiveM native. It's going to be if is control just released 038. Okay, this is a FiveM native, so you come over here and you go, oh shit, nope, is control just released, and that is a client-side function, and it's going to look for the pad index, and it's going to look for a control integer. So the control integer is the control ID, and pad index tells it if you were on PlayStation or something, it would tell it that it was using a controller. Since we're on the computer, we want it to use a keyboard. So pad index of 0 is keyboard. And then 38 is what? 38 is the E key. How do I know that? Because in the handy dandy FiveM docs and game references, there is input mapper, and you scroll through here. The top part is this is the wrong place. We want to go to keyboard. All right, so whenever we go down to the E, it says E. What the fuck? Where's the numbers at? Give me a second. I am drawing a blank here. Input mapper controls. Here we go. No? Yeah, here we go. Okay, this is the one we're looking for. Okay, so we're looking for, in default QWERTY, we're looking for E, and there is E, and our pad index is 38. So that's how you find out. If you wanted it to be the B key, you would use 29. If you wanted it to be the left control key, you would use 36, etc., etc. So pretty much everybody uses E, which is the input pickup, which is 38. It's also the left button if you're using a controller. So E is the same as left button, 38. Okay. There we go. All right, and so then whenever they press E, we want to do a couple of things, and we want to do this. Let's do that first. All right, so we're saying that the control is released, delivered is true, so it's going to exit this loop. That's where we exit that loop because it was checking to see if it was false, and now it is no longer false, so it's going to exit the loop. It won't exit the loop until it finishes its run, though, so it'll do everything below. We're setting repo active to false. Repo active, if you recall, that was our block at the very beginning from lesson 1. Oh, wait, no, from lesson 2. Shit. Let's find it. Okay, accepted contract right here. If not, repo active. So now we've said repo active is false, so they can run the mission again. So that allows them to go back to mod and run the mission again. We're going to remove the delivery blip, and we're going to delete their vehicle. That's all you have to do to delete the vehicle. We've already defined their entity ID whenever we created the vehicle, and now we're just going to delete entity repo vehicle. As soon as they click E, their car is going to disappear, their blip's going to disappear. They're going to be able to re-access mod, and this loop is going to exit. Okay, so now we're going to trigger a server event. And look there, there's payout. Where did we define payout? We defined it earlier when we were, let me just control F that. And we defined it there. So we defined it earlier whenever we were in the very first event that we did where we accepted the contract. Remember, we defined payout from this table right here whenever we picked which vehicle they were going to deliver with our random choice. And so from our example we were talking about, the value would be 900, but it'll be whatever the random selection was. And the reason we can use that one is because we defined it as a local at the top of the lesson 2. Where the fuck? There it is. We defined it here. So it's a variable that can be used in any function on this sheet. And so we're referencing it now, and we're going to trigger a server event. So let's save all that. And we're ready to go to our server. Server Lua. Okay, and the reason we have to trigger an event on the server Lua is because why? Question for the class. Why do we have to trigger this event on the server? Who paid attention last week of what you have to do on the server? Anyone?
Kirby said because it's adding money.
Correct. Kirby is now student or teacher's pet. Good job, Kirby. Way to replace Devect. He'll be happy to know he's no longer my favorite student because he was way slow on his response to that question, and he has a mic. If he's still here, you still here, Sanjay?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're happy about that now that Kirby's the teacher's pet? That makes you happy?
Yeah.
Okay, you gonna beat him up now? All right. So let's see. Let's minimize that. All right. So I just pasted in our function. So shit. Let me open the client back up. Client. All right. So here's our event. We're triggering server event because we're going to be doing a payout. And so we pop over to our server. Here's our event. Drop off vehicle. We passed our payout variable because we had comma payout. So we're passing that variable over to the server. We're defining it here. We always add local source equals source at the top. We put a QB core debug here just to make sure that this is launching, and we're going to make sure that our variable came over with a value. So that's put in just for safe measure, just so we can check our log and make sure everything worked properly. We need to define the player. We did this last week. I'm not going to rehash it. And then we're going to add money, and the amount of money we're going to add is payout, and it's going to tell them on their receipt, mod repos payout. And that is the end of our repo script. I believe we are all done, and so now for the moment of truth, we'll go test it. So let's launch the server. Let's see, test server. Let me make sure I'm in the right folder here. I'm in dev training, yes. I'm gonna say lesson 2 complete, and I'm gonna commit it to the GitHub. And I'm gonna sync it so that my branch in the GitHub is updated. That's not necessary, I'm just doing it so that later I can upload the files and whatnot. And we are going to go to starter server. Let's see, I sure hope I've been recording this whole time. I have been, good job. All right, here, test server, make sure Steam is open, it is. Boom. So while the server is launching, I'm going to connect to the local host, to TX admin, and I'm going to start watching my live console.